All right, let's talk about learning, specifically the science of it. We're going to dig into why some study methods work absolute wonders, while others, well, they just lead to total burnout. Let's get right into it.
You know that feeling, right? You've been at it for hours, you're staring at the same page over and over, and absolutely nothing is sticking. It's like your brain has just hit a wall. No more room. Sound familiar?
Well, you're not going crazy. That feeling is 100% real, and it has nothing to do with how smart you are or how hard you're trying. It's all about a fundamental limit in how our brains are wired to take in new information. And honestly, understanding this limit is the secret to unlocking way more efficient learning. So this whole idea comes down to something from cognitive science called cognitive load theory. And it's pretty simple, really. The theory is that our brain has this kind of mental workbench. And here's the real kicker. That workbench is way smaller than you'd ever guess. And listen, this isn't just some random idea somebody came up with. We're talking about a theory built on decades of solid research from places like Harvard. It all zeroes in on one key process: how we get new information from our active thinking memory into our huge long-term memory. So, what is this mental workbench exactly? Well, that's your working memory. It's the conscious space where you're actively juggling new ideas. Think of it like the RAM on your computer. It's super fast and powerful, but the amount of space is seriously, seriously limited. And here's where it gets interesting. While your working memory is this tiny temporary workbench, your long-term memory is like a massive warehouse with basically unlimited storage. So the whole game of learning is just figuring out how to move knowledge from that tiny little workbench into the giant warehouse efficiently. So how limited are we talking? Get this, research has shown over and over again that our workbench can only handle about 4 to 7 new chunks of information at any one time. That's it. Trying to cram in more than that is like trying to build a complex piece of furniture with way too many parts on a tiny table. You're just going to make a mess. But, and this is a really crucial point, not all mental effort, or what scientists call cognitive load, is created equal. To learn effectively, you have to know the difference between the effort that actually helps you learn and the effort that's just getting in the way. And it turns out there are 3 types.
Okay, it breaks down like this. First, you've got intrinsic load. That's just how hard the topic is. Learning rocket science is harder than learning basic addition, right? We can't change that, we just have to manage it. Then there's extraneous load. This is the bad stuff. It's the phone buzzing, the confusing textbook, the noisy coffee shop. Our goal here is simple: eliminate it, because that frees up all our mental space for the good stuff, germane load. This is the deep, focused effort that actually builds those long-term memories. This is what we want to maximize.
Okay, theory is great, but how do we actually do this? How do we cut out that bad load and crank up the good load? Let's get practical and open up an evidence-based toolkit. First things first, we have to attack that extraneous load. And the number one enemy is probably in your pocket right now. This quote from Education Week says it all. Multitasking with your phone absolutely crushes your ability to learn. Every notification, every quick check, it's all just a massive, unnecessary load on your tiny workbench. So to get rid of that bad load, you have to get intentional. This isn't about willpower, it's about engineering your environment for success. Pick one spot just for studying. Keep it organized. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb, or better yet, put it in a whole other room. Let your family or roommates know you can't be interrupted. Get your water, your snacks, your books, everything ready beforehand. Every single interruption you prevent is more space you're freeing up on that mental workbench. So once the clutter is gone, how do we maximize that good germane load? Well, 2 of the most powerful methods are active recall and spaced repetition. And just look at these numbers from studies in super demanding fields like medical school. Simply testing yourself instead of just rereading can boost how much you remember by up to 40%. And spacing out your study sessions? That can improve it by a whopping 50%. That is germane load in action. It's the good kind of hard. Here's another fantastic way to generate that useful mental effort. It's called the Feynman technique. It's named after the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman, and it is beautifully simple. You just pick a topic, and then you try to explain it in the simplest possible terms, like you're teaching it to a kid. What happens is, this instantly shows you where the holes are in your own understanding. So you go back, you fill in those gaps, and then you try to simplify your explanation again. It forces you to truly understand something, not just memorize a bunch of facts. So what happens when you do all this correctly, when you finally eliminate that bad load and you maximize the good load?
Well, you create the perfect conditions for the ultimate state of learning and focus.
It's called a flow state. You might know it as being in the zone. It's that kind of magical feeling where you're so completely absorbed in what you're doing that time just flies by. Distractions don't even register. And it's not just a feeling, it's a real peak performance state where your brain is firing on all cylinders, making connections, and encoding information deep into your long-term memory. It's pretty much the holy grail of learning.
So let's boil this all down. What are the key takeaways? Number one, and this is probably the most important, you have to ruthlessly tame your distractions. Build yourself a fortress of focus. That's how you minimize your extraneous load.
Number two, stop being a passive learner. Highlighting and rereading just doesn't cut it. You have to actively engage, test yourself, try to teach it to someone else. This is how you maximize your germane load. And number three, give your brain some time to breathe. Your memory works so much better with practice spread out over time, not crammed in at the last minute. Spacing out your learning sessions is one of the single best ways to build that long-term warehouse of knowledge. Look, learning smarter isn't some big mystery. It's a science. Once you understand how your brain's workbench actually operates, you can stop fighting against its limits and start working with them. You have the toolkit now, so the only question left is, what are you going to build?